Hi everyone. Welcome to GeekSpeak podcasts. We are back again with another interesting experience to share about PhD, and this time we are
We are in Chalmers University of Technology
in
and
Sweden,
in Sweden, yes, in Gothenburg.
in Gothenburg.
Yeah.
So today I am here with my friend Nauman, and who has kindly agreed to share his PhD experience about doing his PhD at Chalmers University in Gothenburg. So we'll be basically going through the same drill as we do normally with PhD podcast. We're going to ask his experience, application process, and how's the life in Sweden in general, and also any advice for the applicants for the PhD process. So Naman, first of all, thank you very much for agreeing. And
Welcome. Yeah.
so, Naman, could you briefly introduce yourself to the audience? Like, uh, who are you? What is your background in terms of undergrad and masters? And what is your currently the topic of PhD?
Hi, everyone. I thank you, Hafeez, for letting me be a part of your podcast. I'm Mohammed Nauman. I come from Islamabad. I have studied Bachelor's in Mechanical Engineering from School of Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering, NUST Islamabad. I was in the same batch as Hafeez. We were class of 2018. Uh, then I had a brief tenure at Anglo Fertilizers. Afterwards, I came to Sweden to study masters in sustainable energy systems, and now I'm doing a PhD on a very niche topic. It's related to carbon capture and storage. So we're investigating a material called calcium hydroxide to be used for capturing carbon dioxide for negative emissions.
So, sounds important for the energy
Yeah,
transition.
anyone who's interested in direct air capture can relate to it.
Yeah, yeah. So, Naman, could you share how did you basically find the PhD opportunity at Chalmers, and could you briefly share the process of application that you went through?
Yes, so in Sweden, most of the PhD positions are advertised as kind of job advertisements on university platforms, university websites. So you just need to go to vacancies on your university website and you'll find different positions. So what you need to do is you need to shortlist all the universities that have programs or departments related to your field of interest, and then you can go to vacancies and see if there's any position that's currently open. Also, another way would be to approach or kind of email a professor that you find interesting, and then show your interest, show your research background.
Mhm.
Yeah, for me, and I see it's very common in Sweden, is that if you have an academic master's thesis and if you do your thesis uh, in your in a department in academia, you'll find many opportunities compared to someone who did his thesis in industry to find a PhD position. So if you've worked well, you've published with your supervisor, he knows you personally, so he'll always prefer you compared to someone from outside. And if a position comes and you also apply for it, you will also go through the same process of interviews, but at the end of the day, you always have a higher chance compared to someone from outside.
That's great. And so, but does this mean that if someone hasn't done a master's at Chalmers, his or her chance of getting a PhD position coming abroad from, let's say, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, other countries, would that chance get reduced, or do you think like?
Honestly, if a supervisor has funding and he has a suitable candidate at his department or someone who's working under him as a master student, obviously the chances would be slimmer compared to if it was a fair competition for everyone,
Yeah.
because they want someone who would start working here right away, who has
Yeah.
no problems with immigration. And usually, for example, for me, I was here until December 2022 for my master's thesis, and the project started in January 2023. So they wanted someone who could start working on the PhD right away. The funding is usually for 5 years, so and the tenure of PhD is also 5 years. So it's always good for them if someone could start right away. So yeah,
Right. Okay. But that, I think that shouldn't discourage
no,
people
not at all,
who,
not at all.
yeah, they
It's
still have a chance, and
obviously,
yeah.
especially for positions. There are many positions. A supervisor would want to get funding for almost everything. He has so many applications sent each year. So there's not always that he would find a suitable candidate in his department.
Yeah.
So it's like for most of the positions, uh, he would not have anyone at his department, and he
Yeah.
would want to interview people from outside, and then you have a fair chance because you're competing with
Yeah.
people from outside Sweden.
So bottom line is, of course, if you are doing a master's in Sweden or at Chalmers specifically, and then you're considering a PhD, the transition might be even smoother than if you are going to apply from abroad. But you can still apply from abroad. There is a complete application process. I think we will also go through that, but you will have a fair chance. And so, could you share like CV, motivation letter, this kind of things are required for the?
Yeah. It's very subjective because each supervisor would post his ad himself, and usually what they require is motivation, your transcript, your CV, and some general questions about why you
Yeah.
want to do this, and then obviously if you're shortlisted, you'll go through an interview, and then you'll ask more questions. Once they know your background, and if they're confident, usually what I've heard and or heard around, it's not as technical of an interview as one would think. So yeah.
And is there a minimum grade requirement for anyone to get secure the scholarship? Because I'm assuming you're on a scholarship here.
So in Sweden, we don't, for most of the positions, we don't get a stipend. There are some positions and some, uh, for example, regular intakes of PhD students, but for 90% of the cases, it's a regular job, and you get a salary with tax that is taxable, and then you get benefits from the government as well. So
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So
yes.
basically, your status as a PhD student is basically of a full-time employee as
Yeah,
well.
for,
Yeah.
for Swedish Migration Agency, I'm a student, but for the all the other departments, I would say I am treated uh, equal to someone with a work permit.
Yeah. Okay. That's important, and we will touch upon it in the process about naturalization and permanent residency if you are a foreigner who is studying in Sweden and not from Sweden. So, and one last question before we move on to the next thing. So you said there are two routes. One is the route through which you will apply on a vacancy that has been published on the Chalmers job site. But you are also saying there is a possibility that if someone doesn't find a relevant vacancy, the person can find a professor and then reach out to the professor directly through email.
Yeah,
And
but
that can also work, right?
that can work, but the only thing that would happen differently in that case is that the professor, if he finds your CV interesting, would reach out to you first, but you still have to go through the same process. He has to, as per Sweden's rules and law, you have to publish an advertisement for a certain time before you can start interviewing. So he has to keep it on Chalmers website for some time, and then obviously there'll be more candidates applying, and then he has to interview more. But at least he would know you and would definitely shortlist you for the interview.
So this is an important point. This could turn out as a bonus point, but still you will have to go through the process. But you might get a better chance if you also reach out to the potential supervisors. So don't hesitate doing that.
Definitely.
In terms of requirement for doing a PhD, could you share like? Let's first talk about the style.
I remember you also asked about the grades, and I think I didn't touch upon
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So grades, it's not clearly written like in bold that you need to have a certain grade, but definitely in for especially for PhD positions or any position in academia, grades do matter. So I once asked a professor about this, and he said that the first thing that we look at when looking for a PhD candidate is to look at grades, because he also has to, first of all, it's a good kind of a metric to judge if how good a student is academically, and second of all, he also has to take courses later on in his PhD. So the PhD in Sweden is usually 3 years of research, 1 year of departmental duties, and 1 year of studies, which is equivalent to 60 ECTS European credits.
Awesome. We actually, that was the second question. So the next phase, anyway. So could you share like how many years of PhD normally it takes? So you mentioned it's 5 years in general.
Yes.
And could you also shed a bit light on what is the requirement to graduate? Do you have to have like one publication? Two? Do they have to be journal publications, conference publications? And can you just briefly take us through your journey as a PhD student?
Yes. So PhD in Sweden is always taken as 4+1. 4 years would always include 3 years of research and 1 year of studies, 60 credits. +1 would be if you are willing to teach. In most cases, the department or your supervisor wants you to teach because they're running a master's program as well, and then they need teaching assistants. So you are in, it's an unsaid rule, but you're supposed to teach. So then that makes it 5 years. And in some departments, they're kind of very strict. They, for each of your teaching hours is logged, and you only get extended by the amount of hours that you've taught. But in other departments, they're kind of a little lenient, and they won't log each hour, but as long as you follow the requirements or fulfill the requirements, they will give you 1 year of extension.
Yeah. Okay, so
I forgot your second question.
So the second is how many publications are required to graduate?
So there's no clear rule, from at least I know about Chalmers. There's no fixed rule, but it varies. Again, it's an unsaid rule, and it varies from department to department. For CS graduates or so someone doing PhD in computer science, I've heard they only require like 2 or 3. That could be conference publication or journal publication. It's even better. But for us, an unsaid rule is that I should have 2 published and at least 3 submitted in my department. But there are more and more voices against this rule, because in other parts of Europe, for example, you're not required to publish so many papers. So yeah, nowadays they're kind of lenient on this requirement, and if you can have 1 published, 3 submitted, or 1 published, 2, and yeah, so a total number of 4 publications is also good enough. But at least, they always say, at least 1 should be published.
Yeah. So, but it's a mix of conference and journal, so you can really.
For us,
right?
for my department, they only consider journal publications and not conference.
Right. Again, that's because this is dependent on the department as well.
It's so subjective. You can have times when the project is already like oiled up and everything's running smoothly, so you have chance of having multiple publications within 1 year. But there are some projects that would take some time to go. For example, during my thesis, I was lucky enough to have 1 conference and 2 journal publications. But my PhD has been around 2.5 to 3 years, and I haven't had a single journal publication because the topic was such that I'm supposed to develop a methodology and experimental setup and everything. So it varies. So one can't be so strict.
So there is no strict rule, but you just have to adapt according to department's requirement and your topic. So that is something you should ideally not worry about. You will be guided about that anyways.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's move on to the third section, which is about the salary. Can you give us like a ballpark figure about what kind?
I can be exact if you want.
I don't know if you are comfortable, but let's say if a student who is coming in new from Pakistan, from any other foreign country, and they are starting, how much salary can they expect?
A newly inducted student in Chalmers. Kind of for PhD students, Chalmers is one of the better places in Sweden. So at Chalmers, you would expect somewhere around 35k SEK, Swedish krona, gross salary, and then the tax rate is kind of it's not as high for PhD students. So I would say around 22% of your salary is taxed. So then you can calculate, and after 2 years of your employment, your salary jumps to around 40,000. But there's also annual inflation adjustment. So perhaps someone who starts at 35 would have his salary around 42,000 after inflation adjustment. After 2 years, his salary would jump to 42,000 with inflation adjustment, and also this jump of 5,000 after 2 years of your
Great.
employment.
So the tax rate, is it 22% fixed for the students?
Almost everyone who works at Chalmers, the students, PhD students, I've asked them, and it's around about 22%, 21, 22%.
And what's the living cost here? Is it like this? Is this salary enough for PhD students to survive in Gothenburg?
As I would just break it down. As a bachelor, you will find, for example, an accommodation with a shared kitchen and a separate washroom around 5,000, and you can easily, like within 3 to 4,000, you can have your groceries and everything. But obviously, there would be other costs such as shopping and your telephone bill and everything. And those things with the family, if it's a family of two, again the grocery would be 5,000 and the rent would be around 8-9,000. So then you can calculate. So there's a lot of potential to save, I would say. So the savings are also an option. It's not that just that you are hand to mouth.
Awesome.
But yeah, if you don't travel to Pakistan a lot, I would say you can save quite a good amount.
That's great. Seems like it's a good deal in terms of finance. So
I would like to add, I think what I've heard from other people as well as from my supervisors, the best place to do a PhD in almost the whole of the world is Sweden. So you get benefits from the government, the benefits that any other citizen would have. You get lower tax rate, you get a good salary that is market competitive. So yeah, and also you are, this is another important point that I would like to add, you get accommodation, you're eligible for student accommodation that is subsidized, so then that also
that's
is
nice.
a great advantage.
Okay. I hear all positives for now. So let's keep on going and see what's next. So, since you mentioned the students pay the taxes, so could you also take us through, like, is this PhD time counted towards the permanent residency for any foreign students who are joining in Chalmers University in Sweden?
Yeah, and now, so another great point that's going to make the applicants or the aspirants who want to apply for PhD position in Sweden really interesting is that Sweden has recently passed a law and they're encouraging doctoral students to come and study in Sweden. Your time is counted towards PR, and doctoral students are going to be eligible for a permanent residency in Sweden just after 3 years.
Oh,
so
nice.
And this rule is going to be applicable from this Thursday, which is 11th of June, so very soon. And anyone who has spent 3 years as a doctoral student, so I myself is going to be eligible after 11th of June. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I get my permanent residency here. Yeah,
I mean, like, I think this is kind of a very important information, and also kind of a takeaway that, I mean, this is such easy thing to.
This has made PhD such attractive and wishful position for everyone.
Yeah. Where should PhD students look for the accommodation? Can you also give a few names which are important for cheap housing for students?
I only know about Gothenburg, and for example, I know for a fact that each city in Sweden has certain student accommodation companies, student bostads as we call them, which you can apply for, and they subsidized rate. So in Gothenburg, we have SGS, which is a student bostad, and then Chalmers student bostad. Chalmers students can apply for either of these.
So there are options.
There are options.
You will be fine with that. And as he said,
but usually your administration when you first come here is gonna somehow through ISMO is ISM, or International Student Mobility Office at Chalmers, is gonna help you find an accommodation or with a apartment or a villa that has a contract of 2 years. You usually get that offer only once. Most of the students would accept that, and then they would apply for regular queue at these student bostads websites, and then usually after 2 years you have enough points to get a new place somewhere else.
Great. That's awesome. And moving on, can you explain what's the quality of research and education in Chalmers? Because I think we students and applicants are also interested to know like what's the quality of education, research, and all of that. How's the experience with supervisor and all?
Chalmers is one of the highly ranked universities around the world, and it has a very high level of research. It has the best industry academia partnership. So yeah, once you make it to Chalmers, you can't go wrong here.
Okay,
Yeah.
nothing negative, guys, right? So all positives.
All positive. I'm all in for Chalmers.
Yeah.
Advances.
And this is an important question: is Sweden's work-life balance really better, or is it sometimes over-romanticized?
Um, okay, it depends on someone who likes instructions from his supervisor might not like it so much here because he wants to make you into an independent researcher. But on the other hand, the positive is that you have a very good work-life balance. So you can, apart from the meetings, you can choose your own work hours, and no one's noting if you came to your office at, for example, 11, 10 a.m. and then if you leave early. So as long as you have your project, you've met your project deadlines, or your project aims and goals, you've met your project aims and goals, yeah, no one's bothered about anything. And coming to the work-life balance, another thing in Sweden, generally about Sweden, is that if you if you have a baby here, you're entitled to 480 days of parental leaves in total. I won't go into details of how many are like sickness benefit days, minimum benefit days. There are different categories, and but there are also some number of days that can be transferred from one spouse to the other. And interesting thing is that PhD students are also eligible for those parental days.
Awesome.
And since as a PhD student you have a fixed contract, so anyone in Sweden who has a fixed term contract will have his contract extended by the amount of days that you
Get the parental leave for.
that you get the parental leave for, because for the days that you take parental leaves for, it's not your employer that's paying you, it's the government that's paying you.
That's again another positive. How's the language of Swedish, and do you need to learn the Swedish language as a PhD student? And secondly, what are the job prospects for PhD graduates in Sweden?
So maybe I'll be slightly pessimistic here, not so over romanticizing Chalmers in Sweden now. With PhD and masters, you don't need Swedish language. In academia, everyone speaks good English, and there's no specific requirement for Swedish. Even the students, I've never interacted with any student in while teaching in Swedish. Obviously, you'll have much better job opportunities if you learn the Swedish language. And one again, not such a great point about Sweden is that almost everyone speaks very good English. So that makes you kind of lazy, lethargic. You never try to speak in Swedish. I've had friends in Italy, Spain, Germany. Everyone has, after spending a couple of years, knows basic language of those countries. But in Sweden, most of us don't learn Swedish because everyone is so comfortable with English.
And in terms of jobs,
it does
like, do you get jobs after you finish the PhD? Is it easy to get the jobs in industry?
It's not as easy. Obviously, the more qualified you are, the tougher it is in the job market. I don't know if you've heard this, because you're kind of in a narrow tunnel, and you become more and more niche, and so yeah, the job. Obviously, if I do postdoc later on, I can't expect many job descriptions to be fit for my CV. So yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe we will come back to you after 2 years or 1.5 years once you're finalizing your
exactly, and then you'll know if I got a job or not.
Yeah, but this is a touchy topic, guys.
Yeah, but another thing in Sweden is that again, this law change that happened, and that's going to take effect from 11th of June, is that we're going to have a job search visa of 18 months and not 12 months after we complete our PhD. Yes, and there's some kind of insurances if you've paid for more than 12 months. What PhD students do is, before the end of their fourth year, they apply for this we call insurance, a CASA insurance, and then you get paid for around 12 months through ICASA insurance, even if you're unemployed.
Great. Guys, that's a wrap. Because I have to catch a bus in like 5 to 10 minutes. And
Yeah, and we got to run.
yeah, and Nauman has been very kind, sharing all the informations. One final advice for the students applying for PhDs in Sweden who are coming from abroad. They've done their masters from all around the world. They could be from Europe, they could be from Asia, Middle East. What's the one what are some of the important advice that you would like to give to them?
I would say if you are interested in something, always take your chance. Always apply. You never know. There could be such wonderful opportunities just a click away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Concise, to the point.
Yeah.
All right, guys, have a nice day, evening, night.
Take care. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for giving us time. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope you love Gothenburg.
Of course.